We're so very pleased to welcome you to today's virtual briefing, which is on local and regional governments and SDG 14 implementation, mobilizing action towards the 2022 United Nations Ocean Conference. My name is Lotta Tähtinen, and I am the Chief of the Outreach and Partnerships Branch in the Division for Sustainable Development Goals of UNDESA. I'm very honored to welcome all of you to this briefing, which is organized by DESA as the Secretariat of the 2022 UN Ocean Conference, in close partnership with the Climate Champions team and UN Global Compact. Before we start, let me just share a few housekeeping announcements. First of all, this virtual briefing will be recorded, and we will be making the recording together with presentations and relevant information available afterwards on the event website. And also we will be sharing all information with the registered participants. Secondly, we would be very grateful if all speakers and panelists could please keep your cameras on for the duration of the event or for as much as possible. However, we would like to ask all participants to please keep your microphones muted when you are not speaking. We would like to encourage all of you who are joining us to use the chat box to ask questions from our distinguished panelists and speakers, or share any comments and suggestions. When doing so, please indicate your name and organization or city or region when typing your question. So now let's take a quick look at the agenda for today's briefing. As you can see, we have quite a heavy agenda before us. And we would be very grateful if the interventions could be delivered within the time limit that we have indicated to the speakers. So without further ado, I'm now very pleased to invite our first speaker, His Excellency Ambassador Duarte Lopes, who's the permanent representative of Portugal to the United Nations, to make some opening remarks. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Lotte, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Let me start by thanking Special Envoy Peter Thompson and DPR and Jambi Kiniungi and colleagues from UNDESA, UN Global Compact, and the Climate Champions for co-organizing this event. And also to commend everybody present today, because more than ever, we need to mobilize new ocean action towards the UN Ocean Conference at the end of June. And as we edge closer to June, events such as this one are a vivid testament to the strong mobilization of stakeholders ahead of the conference. And more importantly, they are also the expression of the multitude of voices that have something important to contribute when it comes to debating ocean challenges and ocean action. This is true with respect to international and regional organizations, to youth, the private sector, civil society in general, but also very much so regarding local and regional governments. All these actors have a crucial role to play alongside national governments in implementing Goal 14 and each of its targets. And we all know that we are already missing some deadlines. Local and regional governments are often at the forefront of dealing with impacts such as sea level rise, marine pollution, coastal ecosystem degradation, but are also key agents of change for putting in place policies that addresses those very challenges and carve out a more sustainable path. Local and regional governments are also extraordinarily important, or have also the incredibly important task of engaging citizens, of harnessing the energy and resources on a small scale and turn them into an integrated and coherent action plan. This is why Kenya and Portugal pledged since day one to make sure the UN Ocean Conference will be as inclusive as possible by bringing together all relevant stakeholders. Because we are convinced that governments alone will not be able to win this ocean battle. On the contrary, we will only have a real chance of implementing Goal 14 if we manage to forge long-term and wide-ranging partnerships towards implementing the goal and its targets. The UN Ocean Conference is a unique platform offering a common framework within which different stakeholders can come together and work together with a common goal, making the best out of their different strengths and their different abilities. Kenya and Portugal remain committed to making this conference a driver of change. On local and regional governments, both countries will be working towards finding ways their voices are heard at the conference and that their contribution towards implementing Goal 14 is made an integral part of this discussion. From my side, I'm especially happy to see that today we can count on two senior representatives of two Portuguese cities. So once again, thanking everybody involved in organizing this event. We look forward to continuing to work with all of you ahead of the UN Ocean Conference and beyond Lisbon. Thank you, Lotta.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Lopez. Let me now invite Her Excellency Ambassador Nyambi Kinyungu, who is the Deputy Permanent Representative of Kenya to the United Nations, to deliver her opening remarks. Ambassador, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Lotta, and Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I join Ambassador Duarte and Ambassador Peter Thompson in thanking also the UN Secretariat for organizing this briefing on cities and especially on the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14 and the role of regional and local governments in this regard as we build up to the 2022 Ocean Conference. Indeed, local and regional governments, as my colleague Ambassador Duarte has said, have a critical role in advancing the achievement of the global targets of sustainability and the profitability to use ocean and marine resources, and also to build resilience to global shocks that have been created by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as climate change disasters that threaten lives and livelihoods. In the last 2 years, already vulnerable coastal communities in Africa and other developing countries have been hard hit across coastal tourism industry, fishery value chains, and the shipping industry. Revenue gains or losses from ocean resources flow beyond the ocean-based sectors because of the linkage between land-based economy and the ocean-based economy. And we know that local and regional governments have really suffered a lot of revenue losses in this regard, including loss of livelihoods. Similarly, the activities of inland economies impact our seas and ocean, most notably through pollution flows. There is therefore the responsibility of protecting the ocean that lies with each one of us, and we see the role of local and regional governments once again being well cut out through the development plans and regional plans that they carry out. And we also see this as a way of them assisting the world to reach the Sustainable Development Goal targets of SDG 14. I would just like to highlight that the 2022 Ocean Conference, of course, is going to be building up on the commitments and intent that were agreed upon or voluntarily that member states spoke to in 2017, the UN Ocean Conference, and also in the Sustainable Blue Economy Conference that was held in Nairobi. And we see the role of the regional and local governments once again in ensuring that we move forward as we work towards going to Lisbon in Portugal in June 2022. We believe that we know that, and the intention is to have the 2022 Ocean Conference scale up ocean action based on science and innovation. We need smart solutions to unlock the myriad benefits of the ocean whilst safeguarding its health. This requires structured coordination and collaboration and partnerships in monitoring, research, data sharing, scientific knowledge coupled with traditional knowledge, and increased development financing in ocean practices and other related SDGs. Again, municipal development plans, zoning, bylaws can contribute to this scaling up. The conference is therefore an opportunity for everyone to be able to engage, and particularly for regional and local governments to work together with innovators, with investors, with scientists, with central and sub-regional governments, representatives, and the like, in order to forge meaningful partnerships for the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 14. We would like to encourage all stakeholders to actively participate in the conference, generating new and inclusive commitments in our ocean. The blue economy is not only a new frontier for economic growth, which needs to be tapped, but to enhance global efforts in tackling climate change and advance healthy and sustainable living. We welcome you, and I join Ambassador Duarte and Ambassador Peter Thompson and the UN, of course, fraternity in welcoming the regional and local governments that are represented here to Lisbon. Welcome, karibuni, asante. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kinyongo. And on behalf of the UN Secretariat, we would like to thank very much the governments of Portugal and Kenya for your vision, for your leadership, and for your drive in supporting us as co-hosts the 2022 UN Ocean Conference. Let me now give the floor to the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean, Ambassador Peter Thompson, to make his remarks. Ambassador Thompson, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Lotta. I presume you can hear me clearly. I'm speaking to you from London this afternoon. Look, I'll put my stopwatch on because I've been asked to speak for 10 minutes, and it's hard to turn an ambassador off when you turn him on. But I'll try not to repeat anything that the two erstwhile ambassadors have said just before me now. So I'm going to approach the remarks for our listeners probably more as to, you know, where are we at the moment in terms of ocean action? And of course, the jewel in the crown is the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon at the end of June. But there's a lot else going on. In fact, I have just come back from Brest, where I spent a week with 40 heads of government and 200 to 300 world experts on ocean action. It was an amazing gathering with some with repeated again and again, right up the level of President Macron, the fact that it was a build-up towards the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon. And the ideas and the commitments that were made there were carrying forward to such meetings as Our Oceans Conference, which the US and the government of Palau are hosting in Palau in April. And so these ideas are flowing through along with a lot more meetings, which I'm just going to quickly explain to you now. But you know where I'm coming from, SDG 14, and of course that's what the UN Ocean Conference is about as well. But as Jambi said, there's also a very important thing, which is a sustainable blue economy. She referred to the Nairobi conference that we held in 2018, but in Cascais, the adjoining city to Lisbon, on the 27th of June, in other words, in the middle of the UN Ocean Conference, there's going to be a Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum. Now, there's a lot of interest building up amongst people that I'm talking to around the world in that investment forum. So please all be aware of that. When we are talking about the UN Ocean Conference, be aware that there is this Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum. And why do I emphasize that? Because when you get to the heart of SDG 14, there are two things which are not really mentioned in the language of SDG 14, but underlie it, actually hold it up. One is the acceptance that we live in the embrace of Mother Nature, That's why we're setting out to conserve and sustainably use the ocean resources. And the second is that the sustainable blue economy underlies everything that's mentioned in there about, you know, how to better manage our fisheries, how to stop pollution and so on. Now, in all of this, cities and regional governments have absolutely key place, because when we talk about countries, I think most people sort of think in terms of the tourist images of those countries, you know, lovely Swiss mountainsides or something, but the Swiss people live in cities, as do people all around the world. In Fiji, you see our lovely beaches and all the rest, but we're urbanized as well. You know, we live in big urban conglomerations. So the cities and towns are absolutely important to this goal of conserving and sustainably using the ocean's resources. And you know, the majority of us, again, are not just urban dwellers, but the majority of us are coastal dwellers as well. So why do we need to invest in the sustainable blue economy? The answer is that it's because it represents the future of humankind. And if that sounds like an exaggeration to you, I'll just expand briefly. But before I do that, let's also recognize that we're living in very dangerous times. You know, COP26 was a good step forward. As the Secretary General said, it provides good building blocks going forward. But, you know, with every belch from a coal-fueled power plant, our situation gets worse. And when I say our, I speak to you as somebody who comes from a small island developing state. You know, watching our coral dying and our sea levels rising and the storms getting fiercer, all because of our greenhouse gas emissions. And these coal-fueled power plants are just, you know, a crime against us, really. So look, why is the sustainable blue economy so important to us all? Firstly, because as far as energy is concerned, we can get all the energy we need from the ocean many times over. The kinetic forces out there, you know, of wind, of tide, of current, all the energy we need, renewable, out there. And then as we approach the post-antibiotic age in medicine, the scientists are pointing us in the direction of the ocean as the frontier for the pharmaceutical future. And that's where the UN Decade of Ocean Science is so important to us all. And then if you look at agriculture, you know, with desertification, with what we know is happening to soil and all the rest, I'm absolutely convinced, after all the work I've done in this field, that our future food supplies is gonna be aquatic. That sustainable aquatic foods, they're gonna give us new forms of food from ecologically farmed seas and coasts. You know, and it may even be that with global warming, many of us will be driven to live in and under the ocean rather than in overheated terrestrial settings. And if that sounds very Jules Verne to you, all I'd say is that it's actually logical when you think that this planet, over 90% of the living space on this planet where life can exist is in water. And so from, you know, decarbonization of shipping, so important to port cities, to the safeguarding of coastal cities and agriculture in the face of steadily rising sea levels, the time for absolutely transformational investment in the sustainable blue economy has arrived. And that's why I emphasize again that meeting that's happening in Cascais as the follow-on from the Nairobi Sustainable Blue Economy meeting in Cascais on the 27th of June, because the time has arrived when we have to seriously fund the sustainable blue economy. We're not talking hundreds of millions, we're talking trillions. Why? Because we have to act as if our futures depend on it, because in fact they do, as I've explained. And look, I've done 6 minutes. It's far too much time already spent on that, because I want to quickly just say to you that there are 6 meetings coming up, which, if successful, and success just entirely depends on international governments around the world achieving consensus. All we're asking is these 6 meetings succeed in getting consensus, and we will stop the decline in the ocean's health. And that's what we're setting out to do, because you can't have a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. And we have to stop that decline, and we can do it this year. And I'm referring, of course, to the upcoming meeting in Geneva to end harmful fisheries subsidies, $30 billion a year, public funds that should be spent on ecological projects along our shores. We've got the, I'll be down in Nairobi at the end of this month at the UNEA meeting, where there'll be the good opportunity for us to bring in the start of negotiations for a treaty, an internationally binding treaty to end plastic pollution. And then we go, of course, to New York for the BBNJ negotiations for better governance, robust and operable rules to govern the high seas. And then in Kunming, China, of course, we've got the next CBD COP15, where we expect to bring in 30 by 30, protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. That'll be a game changer. And then the UN Ocean Conference itself, end of June, whole new raft of ocean action solutions based on science and innovation. And then the Sharm el-Sheikh meeting at the end of the year in Egypt, COP27, where if we get that right in terms of ambition, mitigation, and finance, we will have succeeded in all those 6 meetings and reaching consensus there in stopping the decline of the ocean. We won't fix the ocean. That's a job for our grandchildren to do. That's ongoing. But we can stop the decline this year. And that's a promise as long as member states get to consensus. Now, who's going to tell the member states to do that? You know, who are that? It's not like they're coming from Mars. They are us. The member states are us. And cities and regional governments are any cabinet or a prime minister or president in any country listens to what his local governments and regional governments and his cities are saying, because that's the people of his or her country. And so you have huge influence in that regard. So please, you know, my big message would be, don't squander 2022. This is the year we can stop the decline of the ocean health, and it's up to member states to do that. And I really call on you, because all of you have got connection to your governments to do that. And so with those words, I think I'm looking at my stopwatch here, Lotta, and if I stop now, I'll have actually about 20 seconds to just smile at you and say hello. And thank you very much for the opportunity of addressing such an important audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Thompson, for laying out so eloquently the roadmap for all of us throughout this year 2022, and really underlying the absolutely critical role that local and regional governments have in each and every single one of these key events that you just spoke about. So before we turn to our inspiring panel, let me do a quick presentation to all the participants on the logistical preparations for the Ocean Conference and the opportunities for local and government representatives to participate. As the ambassadors have already referred, the overarching theme of the United Nations Ocean Conference, as has been decided by the General Assembly, is scaling up ocean action that's based on science and innovation for the implementation of SDG 14, stocktaking, partnerships, and solutions. The co-hosts of this conference, we are very grateful to the governments of Kenya and Portugal for hosting the event, which will take place in Lisbon, Portugal, from the 27th of June to 1st of July. The venue in Lisbon will be the Altice Arena, which is right outside the center of Lisbon. Next slide, please. The program for the Ocean Conference will feature a mixture of formal meetings as well as more informal events, as well as side events that will be organized by governments and UN system and different stakeholders. The conference will feature 8 interactive formal dialogues, multi-stakeholder dialogues that will be part of the official program. There will be the official plenary sessions where governments and stakeholders will be able to make their official positions on the topic. And then in addition to this, we will feature a number of high-level special events. Ambassador Thompson already referred to the Sustainable Blue Economy Investment Forum that will take place in the nearby city of Cascais. There will also be a special event for youth. And we hope, we are very much looking forward to also featuring a special event for cities and local governments. More details about the program is available on the conference website, which is being continuously updated. Next slide, please. The UN General Assembly has invited a wide range of different participants to take part in this conference. Over and beyond member states and specialized agencies and parties to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, we also expect there to be other intergovernmental organizations, the international financial institutions, UN entities, local and regional governments, NGOs, academic institutions, scientific community, philanthropic organizations, the private sector, and many other stakeholders. It's really going to be a multi-stakeholder gathering. The co-hosts are expecting the event to take place fully in person, and let me repeat, fully in person in Lisbon. Next slide, please. For interested stakeholders, the United Nations is conducting a process where interested organizations that do not yet have status with the United Nations can apply for special accreditation. We have the last round of granting special accreditation for interested entities currently open with a deadline of 28 February. Let me note that the United Nations grants special accreditations to organizations. And in this regard, there are two key ways for local and regional governments who are interested to participate in the UN Ocean Conference. Firstly, interested local and regional governments can be part of the official country delegation and be registered to attend through their permanent missions here in New York. Or if they wish, they may also come as part of the umbrella of national associations or global network organizations that already have status with the United Nations, including, for example, we have Emilia Sais, the Secretary General here of UCLG. And UCLG has already status with the United Nations. So under the umbrella of UCLG and other key city networks, you may also come as part of their delegations. More details will again be made available through the conference website. Next slide, please. So what are the key opportunities for local and regional governments during the conference? Firstly, as participants of the conference, you will be able to attend all the conference events, the formal sessions as well as informal sessions. You can join the discussions at the 8 interactive dialogues, the different special events and side events. Secondly, local and regional governments can also propose to organize side events in connection with the Ocean Conference. We will be opening the registration or the application for side events shortly. And applications to organize a side event can be submitted through the Ocean Conference website. Thirdly, local and regional governments are invited to register and showcase your voluntary commitments or actions in support of SDG 14 through the online community that is available through the Ocean Conference website, and join the vast network of the virtual communities of ocean action that came out of the 2017 UN Ocean Conference. Lastly, local and regional governments are also invited to submit your recommendations, your proposals, your substantive contributions through an online consultation that is currently open. And more information will be on the next slide, and I would invite my colleague to move to that slide now. So in preparation of the 8 interactive dialogues that will be held during the conference, UN DESA has opened an online consultation to seek inputs from stakeholders, including local and regional governments, to the concept papers of these 8 interactive dialogues. The topics of the interactive dialogues are featured on this slide. I will not repeat and read all of them, but as you can see, it's a very broad range of topics. And we are inviting your inputs, your substantive contributions to the concept papers under each of these topics. The deadline to submit proposals, inputs, is the 21st of February. And again, more details are available on the conference website. Next slide, please. So now let us turn to the roundtable discussion, which will be part of this webinar, on the challenges and opportunities for coastal cities and regions in the lead up to the conference, and also implementation of SDG 14. And I would like to hand the floor over to our dear colleague, Mr. Ignace Beguin, who's the ocean lead in the Climate Champions team. So Ignace, over to you now, please.
Thank you, Lotta, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today as we are gathered to kick off the conversation and action of coastal cities and region on the road to the UN Ocean Conference. And we've learned and we know how important urban areas are if we want to stop the pollution entering the ocean and to build the resilience of the coastal communities. So to discuss these important and critical topics, I'm joined by a very distinguished panel today. I will first invite the panelists to answer some of my questions, and then we can turn into a more discussion. And then you will have the opportunity of all of you participants to request the floor for the Q&A session. But first of all, let me start with Mrs. Joana Belsameo, who is the councilwoman of the Cascais municipality in Portugal. Mrs. Joana Belsameo, you will host the Blue Investment Forum at the UN Ocean Conference. And I'm wondering how do you see the role of cities and maybe more broadly cities in Portugal to accelerate ocean action and deliver on SDG 14?
Thank you. Good afternoon here to everyone. Good afternoon to the ambassadors and to all the other participants. I would take a step back. The European Commission has calculated that 2/3 of SDG targets cannot be attained without the contribution of local authorities. So I think this statistic pretty much speaks for itself. So yes, so local authorities do have a very important role. I think this is the terrain where the battle for sustainability can pretty much be won or lost. As Ambassador Duarte Lopes mentioned, local authorities can be key agents of change if they so wish to. So cities are where the impacts are caused. Cities do have a negative environmental footprint in general. They concentrate operations in people and pollution and pressures, but they are also the areas where change can happen. There's economies of scale, there's innovation, and there is the will to change. We are the first port of call whenever there is a strong impact of any sort, be it a coastal winter surge or floods or forest fires. And when we look at what climate change does to sea level rise and coastal erosion, which we're already suffering from, cities are the first to be impacted. So this naturally spurs us to be willing to, roll up our sleeves and act. Sometimes cities don't act as swiftly as possible, although they are comparatively more agile than central government in the kind of reaction or the proximity, because there is a lack of knowledge or there is a lack of control over certain processes. In Portugal, the coastal area is in the hands of many different ministries, 9 different ministries, for example. And this means cities are not always aware of how and where they can act upon legally. And sometimes there is also a lack of knowledge. And before, Ambassador Peter Thompson has mentioned the decade for science-based in ecosystem restoration and ocean knowledge. And here too, it's really important that cities know and have scenarios about what can happen to them regarding sea level rise. In Cascais, for example, we've conducted a study with academia that has told us that until 2050, we could be looking at 38 centimeter sea level rise. Our economy is based on tourism. What does this do to our beaches, for example? What does this do to our fishing economy as well? So cities have to know where they can act. They have to have the best knowledge available and then just do it. And there's a lot we can do regardless of the challenges that I mentioned before. There's lobbying, and I'm sitting with the ambassadors, and the power of diplomacy is really important, not just with central government but with private area as well. The water companies that manage the sewage system, we have to liaise with them on a monthly or daily basis because they're private, we're public, but they're acting on our land, and whatever they do incorrectly will harm our coastlines. So lobbying is one of them. And then there's all the local policies that we can carry out. And for example, we're doing reforesting the seabed, again, with science backup, so with 4 different universities. Why? Because before, in Cascais, many decades ago, there used to be a lot of algae on our seabed. This is no longer the case because of human activity. We want to restore that. It's win-win-win. It's not just about biodiversity, although it is also about biodiversity, but it's about carbon CO2 capture. It's about producing more oxygen, and then the biodiversity attracts more fish, which is positive for our local fishing community. It's also positive for leisure and for the diving community and tourism and all that. So it's win-win-win, and that is something we can do as a local authority. So calculating the impacts is something we can do. Acting on land as well. For example, by restoring river creeks that are our domain and that flow into the ocean. This is a responsibility that local authorities can call upon themselves, and it has serious positive impact. Again, win-win-win, not just reducing pollution that goes downstream, but creating all these green corridors. So I don't want to bore you with everything we're doing. I wanted to highlight a few of the challenges, how we go about them, and afterwards we can talk about other issues like how to mobilize more coastal cities to support this SDG, and also welcome everyone to Cascais for the major side events on Sustainable Blue Economy and Investments Forum.
Thank you very much, Joanna, for for this. And we've heard in your remarks the importance of what we call nature-based solution. to build the resilience and of the coastal cities, and that leads us well to Mr. Dolapo Fazawe, who is the general manager of Lagos State in Nigeria. Mr. Fasa, where Lagos is one of the largest and fastest growing city in Africa, facing many challenges, and to tackle some of these challenges, you created the role of Chief Resilience Officer. Dolapo, can you tell us what actions Lagos is taking currently to build the resilience of its population? What role is nature-based solution taking in this package of solutions? And maybe it would be great if you can highlight some of the challenges you see from your city's perspective in implementing the resilience adaptation strategy you've developed. Mr. Fazawe, the floor is yours.
It's Mrs. Fasawe.
Oh, I apologize.
It's fine. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm glad to be here. Lagos is a coastal city. The coast of Lagos dives right into the delta of the Atlantic Ocean. And they're about, we're just right at the base there. There are about 9 lagoons right into the Lagos coast. And the truth is, it's been a tough battle. Now, when we say we're resilient, that means we are prepared for whatever the ocean throws at us, be it rising sea levels, be it lack of food, or we have to be prepared. And what have we done as a city to be prepared? I will tell you the truth. Recently, about eight years ago, the Eco-Atlantic City was built. I don't know if anyone has heard about the Eco-Atlantic City. The Eco-Atlantic City started with putting breakers by the beach, because the beach was so far off, and all of a sudden we could see the beach. It was coming towards the city. So they put breakers. Some rainy season, the breakers were overtaken, and then the beach came right onto the road. Now, then it was obvious that a rising sea level is a major problem we would have to deal with in Lagos. Now, how do we deal with a rising sea level, at the same time be conscious of SDG 14? How do we not sand fill and put brick and mortar and build artificial cities without affecting the whole ecosystem, without affecting the barracudas, the planktons, and those fishes that thrive in low waters? It's been, to me personally, a catch-22 situation. So I am looking forward extremely to this conference, where we can share ideas and understand technology that will tackle rising sea levels, at the same time not interfere in the whole ecosystem. That is one. Two, I recently attended a conference in Brest, in Paris, France, just a few days ago, and it was all about rising sea levels. If you recollect, most of the SDGs is to attain certain goals at a certain time, mostly 2050. But for the SDG 14, it's 2020, because the adverse effects of losing our ecosystem and the chemistry and the sustainability and the ability to manage the water you don't even want to think about it. It affects the blue economy. It affects human beings. There could be famine, there could be drowning, there could be all sorts of things. So like I said, I'm looking forward to, I can't tell you we have any solution apart from advocacy. What my agency is doing right now is telling people about SDG 14 and the importance of maintaining a balance of life underwater. How do you maintain it? What happens if you don't maintain it? And what do we hope for by 2020? That is majorly what is happening in Lagos State. Advocacy, information, education, communication, and we find them having so many questions. So what if we do this? What happens to our fishes? What if we do this? What happens to the mudfish or to the seawater fish? This is why it has become imperative and important to come together to exchange ideas and technology that would give us a more pragmatic net zero. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fazaway. And this is exactly one of the objectives of mobilizing cities and regions on the road to the UN Ocean Conference, is to create this group of cities and cities network working together to share ideas, share knowledge, and solutions. So thank you for these remarks. Now I would like to turn to Dr. Sergi Tudela, who is the Director General for Maritime Policy and Sustainable Fisheries in Catalonia in Spain. Dr. Tudela, from your perspective as a regional authority, what do you think, can you tell us a bit more what the government of Catalonia is doing currently to take action for SDG 14?
Yes, thank you, Ambassador, Secretary General. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. And first, I would like to, of course, thank the organization for this invitation. I'm here, as you said, on behalf of the government of Catalonia, a maritime country in the northwestern Mediterranean. Catalonia is extremely interested in contributing to the UN Oceans Conference. The fact that in 2019, we submitted 2 voluntary commitments of ocean action is testimony of this interest. Catalonia is among the most maritime economies in Europe. Actually, we have assessed the weight of blue economy in our country. Now we can say that blue economy sectors deliver over 5% of all livelihoods, which means 200,000 direct employment, and almost 4% of our annual GVA. So it's not surprising that since 2016, Catalonia has been building an integrated maritime policy aimed at fully developing our blue economy sectors while ensuring, of course, the protection of marine ecosystems, their biodiversity, ecosystem services, and natural capital. All this is well reflected in the maritime strategy of Catalonia 2030 that was launched in 2018, and which is being implemented through multi-annual plans of action. If I were to name the most distinctive element of our maritime policy, where we have placed most of our efforts, I would mention, without doubting, governance, and particularly adaptive and participatory governance. This is going to be my main point, or the main point of this small speech today. We understand it's absolutely key to decentralize governance and to empower stakeholders. And this is so because many maritime policies, to be effective, should be fitted to the geographical scale that matters. It's that easy, which is often of a local or supra-local nature, at least in our part of the world. And we are convinced that probably everywhere, right? So in this sense, we were first in Europe to adopt a legal framework, to create a legal framework regulating fisheries co-management already in 2018. Our model for fisheries co-management is based on the establishment of co-management committees per fishery, composed of representatives of fishers, of course, scientists, NGOs, which means civil society, and the administration. And this is the most important thing, all of them on equal footing when it comes to decision making. So all voices and all votes in these committees weigh exactly the same. So this represents a full devolution of power to stakeholders in maritime areas, and results so far are extremely encouraging. And actually, we are working a lot with FAO on this issue. Actually, we can say, and we are proud of this, that now 60% of the entire a small-scale fisheries fleet of Catalonia is involved in the different co-management committees, is managed through co-management. But in Catalonia, co-management is also applied beyond fisheries. So the governance, for example, of multiple uses of the sea by different sectors in wider maritime areas through what we call co-management tables. And we have a couple of good examples of them. And besides, a high-level Catalan Council for Maritime Co-Management has also been established to oversee the overall integrated maritime policy of the country. So we understand that the UN Oceans Conference is a crucial opportunity to deliver progress on how to create the enabling conditions for attaining SDG 14. And in this sense, we strongly believe this means setting the right governance approach at the local and supra-local or subnational level. Current focus on oceans governance at international fora is usually limited to its international dimension, but we understand the same emphasis should be done at the national and local level, there where most of things happen. So there is no possible integrated management policy without the stakeholder empowerment, policy decentralization, and adaptive management. And all these, we understand, can be delivered through real co-management. So in this sense, and I'm finishing, of course, Catalonia, we are ready to offer the lessons learned in the last years. And of course, we are eager to learn from other similar experiences worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tudela, for raising this point of ocean management, which is certainly crucial if you want to deliver on SDG 14 and many other SDGs. And I believe that your experience will not only be critical and useful for other cities and regions, but also for national governments, because integrated ocean management is a crucial lever if you want to properly use and manage our ocean in the long term. So thank you so much for this remark. Now I would like to invite Mrs. Marta Pontes, who is the councilwoman of Matosinhos municipality in Portugal, to share with us what the city of Matosinhos is doing to deliver on SDG 14, and also sharing your perspective and maybe one example on how cities can work together to deliver on the SDGs and how collaboration can work.
Hello, good morning to you all. Thank you for this invitation. Maybe I would start to give a view from the city of Matosinhos. I think not many should know what we do. So it is a great honor for us to be present in these discussions. Matosinhos is one of the many municipalities in the north of Portugal, which grew and developed integrating the sea as part of the city itself, facing the ocean as an essential natural resource for the development and growth of the population. We have a coastline of more than 16 kilometers, all connected by walkways. Also have the main commercial port in the north of Iberian Peninsula, which is directly responsible for 11% of the gross domestic products and 11% of employment in the northern region of the country, and also for the creation of a turnover of more than 55 million euros. We have a cruise port, in fact, awarded worldwide for the quality of its architecture, a recreational port, a fishing port, and many leisure activities related to the sea. Since the beginning of the SDGs, we intended to be an active agent in their implementation. We consider that for the first time, it is verified that this challenging grid requires an important intervention by the municipality. We know that we run against time, and it's therefore urgent to invest in SDG 14 and marine sustainability. In addition to being committed to its implementation, we also like to share and learn with other municipalities, not only nationally, but international. And therefore, besides the conference, we participate in several initiatives such as localizing the SDGs through Local 2030 promoted by the United Nations. As a friend of Matosinhos, who is also the current UN Secretary General, Engineer António Guterres says, it's time for action. Let's see briefly some examples of what we are developing with the various stakeholders of our municipality in the dynamization of the SDGs with a focus on the SDG 14. Regarding on environment, we support for the decarbonization of the ports of Matosinhos through an electrification and logistical change project so that fewer trucks enter in the ports already in a near future, not a logical future, but in a newer future, and becoming the first port in Europe to be self-efficient in terms of energy. We intend to integrate the network of 100 carbon neutral urban spaces by 2030 and to be one of the 5 new European Bauhaus cities in Europe. In governance and finance, we are stimulating an entrepreneurship ecosystem in the area of blue economy with the creation of a hub for startups and incubator, but also with the mobilization of academia and the financial sector. We have projects in this area, which is expected to have an impact on an international scale and who are strongly committed to sustainability. We believe people are the main pillar for implementing the SDGs, so we are involving citizens in collective actions focused on sustainability of the sea, not only in projects to promote ocean literacy with schools, associations, as well as other educational projects. We also promote the involvement of citizens searching solutions for oceans. Regarding research and knowledge, we have CIMAR, which is one of the largest Portuguese research centers, leader in the development of knowledge and innovation linked to the ocean and marine sciences, with more than 500 scientific articles published in a single year from more than 180 PhD degrees. It is also from Matosinhos that the part of the activity of SEIA develops. SEIA is one of the largest research and development centers in Portugal, with more than 200 engineers and whose developed technology has already been implemented in more than 700 cities. In Matosinhos, we also have UPTEC Mar, one of the largest business incubators linked to the oceans. CMIA, an environmental monitoring and interpretation center dedicated to the promotion of scientific knowledge and maritime sustainability among the population, and several other knowledge centers.
Thank you.
So we believe it is possible to be a coastal city with exports for more than 180 countries and use marine resources in a sustainable way. But it's very important for us to share and to learn these practices. So the conference is mainly important for that for us. We need to compare and positionate about what we are doing.
Thank you so much, Marta, and congratulations to all the amazing work Matosinhos is doing. Now I would like to invite Mr. Florian Lux from Go Blue project and at UN Habitat in Africa. Florian, you're part of this very exciting initiative of UN organization working with Kenyan subnational to accelerate the blue economy. Can you tell us more about Go Blue project and what are also your ambition for the UN Ocean Conference in that context?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here, Excellencies. Thank you for hosting this important event. I'm speaking to you from Kilifi, actually. at the Kenyan coast. And what you see is not a background, but it's a picture I took today of a public space we are developing in the county of Kilifi on a creek. And the Go Blue project is a spin-off from the Kenya conference, from the Go Blue conference, the Blue Economy conference in 2018. It's an EU project that has been developed that is jointly implemented by implementing partners from Germany, Italy, France, and also Portugal. And the UN has a joint implementation arm of one of the pillars of this project, which is the environment pillar. So this is a joint UN Habitat UNEP initiative, and it aims at creating an integrated land-sea planning framework for the Kenyan coastal counties. So we work closely with an economic bloc called JKP, which is a conglomerate of the different coastal counties, mainly for economic growth stimulation. And we have a lot of overlapping areas with the other implementing partners when it comes to fisheries, value chains, but also security aspects. The French part is working on coastal security as well. So this is a very interesting, innovative project from the UN perspective, because it joins the land and the sea, and it joins two agencies, one that is really focusing on cities, UN Habitat, and UNEP, which is more focused on the marine protection areas. So we have chosen pilot sites in all 6 counties, and we are working on different projects, which include municipal planning. We're creating data centers for exchange of knowledge, integrated planning framework as a global context, but then also there's wastewater projects, management of marine protection sites, and many more. So those are all pilots that are part of this integrated framework. So we are past the inception stage now, moved into the implementation phase of this project, which will go to 2024. And for us, the Ocean Conference is a great framework to push further on the blue economy approach, integrate this with the SDG work. Of course, we have a strong focus on data and knowledge creation. Data centers are going to be created in all those counties, some of which are already ongoing, and we're building onto existing work, some of which we are creating where the infrastructure has to be created. And we're trying to create also a knowledge hub of those in the center in Mombasa, in JKP, which is the economic bloc, which would then have a nerve center for all those hubs, and it will be easier to plan and go forward. All of this, of course, is taking part within the Kenyan devolution process. So this has been a very interesting approach. And speaking about the blue economy, I think that for the Ocean Conference, it's an outlet for us to push for this approach globally. And if this succeeds, and we very much think it will, then this approach can be brought to other areas, including freshwater areas, but also to other countries besides Kenya. So this is in a nutshell the Go Blue. But also I was asked from the UN Habitat perspective now, also to speak about an innovative project that UN Habitat has been pursuing with global partners from the private sector that has recently been picked up by the city of Busan, which is the Floating Cities Initiative. There was a high-level roundtable on floating cities in New York with the Deputy Secretary General and others. And this is also ocean related, but it's very different. And basically, it's an innovative approach of building communities on water, and it's a technological, feasibility study in a way. And UN Habitat is joining that effort along with private sector partners also to ensure that all of it is aligned with the SDGs and comes in as an evaluator, connecting it to the communities on the ground. So that's another element where UN Habitat is engaged in something very relevant. And of course, there are a lot of other parts of the work where UN Habitat is working on cities and climate change. And as the special envoy has said at the beginning, most of the people live on the coastline. So resilience is, of course, a big issue. Over. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Florian, and congratulations for this work. Now I would like to turn to Ms. Nolisa Hashim, who is the CEO of Urbanist Malaysia. Thank you so much, Nolisa, for joining us so late. I know it's late in your part of the world, but can you tell us a bit more what Urbanist Malaysia is doing? And I will begin to also hear from you. What are your hope, your ambition for the UN Ocean Conference when it comes to cities and region ocean action?
Yeah, thank you, Ignace. Thank you to the organizers for having me here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from where I am actually. I'd like to share a little bit on the work, or a little bit on perspective on Malaysia. On the Peninsula Malaysia where I live, actually, there's about 4,300 kilometers of coastal line just within our country. And there's about 45 local government that actually administer this area. And we have about 89 cities in total and more than 2,300 villages, which amounts to almost about 7 million people living just along the coastal area. So definitely, I think, SDG 14 is a very important SDG for us, especially in managing the quality of the coastal areas, the vulnerability of the coastal areas, especially with regards to some of the sea level rise that we've been experiencing over the last 20 years, and this is seen to be going to be even further over the next 20 to 30 years into the future. So one of the work that we are doing currently in Urbanist, is a project that we are looking at how to reduce marine pollution, in particular looking at plastic marine pollution. And in particular, we were looking at a closing the loop project in scaling up innovation to tackle marine plastic in our city. This project was actually brought to us by UNSCAP and was supported by the Japan government. And Kuala Lumpur is one of the 4 cities that has been chosen, and it has committed to address leakages of plastic waste into our waterways that would pollute our ocean and coastal areas. Though Kuala Lumpur is not a coastal city, it is actually our capital city, but we have major rivers and that flows into the city, and that goes also into the ocean just 15 to 20 kilometers away. So the project has 3 very fundamental approach, and this is where we actually establish some baselines. We also use some digital mapping tools in order to establish where the hotspot and leakages are, and subsequently develop a city action plan. I think what was very crucial when we did this study was, first of all, we had to set up a technical committee, and that technical committee comprised of people from various agencies that came from actually 4 different ministries. And I think for that to happen was a big, quite a big, for us, was a big accomplishment to bring everyone to the same table to discuss these issues just for one city project. And on top of that, we also did a waste composition study, and it was also a very interesting study to actually understand, the socioeconomics that's related to the waste composition. And subsequently, stakeholder engagement was undertaken in order to establish not only the issues, but also in developing the action plans. What came out of the study is that not much of the study actually will leak into the waterways, only about 0.4%. But still, it was still a very big concern to the city, because the city had actually put quite a lot of effort in terms of strengthening all forms of mechanism to avoid any form of leakages. So I would say that one of the biggest achievement of this project is when the stakeholders that comprise from NGOs, academia, private sector, and government groups all came together to address all the issues that were related to the leakages, and they all agreed that Kuala Lumpur should go for a 0 plastic leakage by 2030. So in developing the action plan, they actually identified collectively that it's very important to close all possible pathway of plastic leakages, including behavior change and strengthening infrastructure. Secondly, they also agreed to improve solid waste and plastic waste data management. And thirdly, to transform from a linear disposal to circular approach for plastic waste management. So I think that action plan is very crucial, and it will involve several agencies in terms of ensuring that it can be successfully executed. And this also requires that collaborative effort within all levels of government. And another thing which I wanted to relate that, I think that it's important for local government to be very involved in SDG 14, even though they are not a coastal city, because looking at how, even from Kuala Lumpur's perspective, even if the leakage is small, it actually contributed to downstream pollution, which had affected, and we had to spend a lot of money to clean the downstream waterways, and this affected the value of the other cities further down to Kuala Lumpur. So definitely, this is an important aspect that needs to be undertaken by all cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hashim. We unfortunately don't have time to go back to the panel, but I believe we heard some very, very important point today as we virtually cross the world, that certainly, first of all, there is so much to learn from each and other. Real action are taking place in cities and in coastal cities. So we need to come together and share knowledge and expertise. And as I've mentioned, this is one of the objectives of this track toward the UN Ocean Conference, is to bring cities and cities network together to share knowledge and accelerate action globally. Secondly, cities and region are really, I will say, ticking all the box for the UN Ocean Conference, delivering on pollution, the blue economy, coastal resilience, ocean management. So with no doubt, cities and region are a key stakeholders to have around the table if we want to achieve SDG 14 and build the resilience of coastal communities also on the road to COP27. So very glad to join you today. Thank you so much to all of you for taking the time to share your perspective. This is the first meeting on the road to the UN Ocean Conference, and with the climate champions and all of the partners we have been engaged with, and very keen to work with you to deliver, meaningful action and commitment for the UN Ocean Conference in June. So look forward to working with all of you. And now I will pass the floor to my colleague, Mrs. Maria Costa, who will manage the interactive dialogue. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Inas, for moderating the session. And also I'm joining you in thanking the panelists for the insightful discussions as well. We have a few minutes for some interaction. I will be asking all participants that are interested or have questions or want to try to make some short remarks to please either raise your hands, or if you want to use the chat box to indicate your comments. We have been collecting a few. We have two colleagues that are ready to make some short remarks. I'll be inviting them first, then we'll be addressing the questions that are on the chat box, and we'll be trying to accommodate as many as we can. If we can't, do not worry, we are taking notes, and we will be also trying to address those in the summary, and also we can be reached for bilateral follow-up as well. So let me start by inviting Ms. Kate Stratton. She is a Senior Professional Officer at eClay Africa. Kate, please, you have the floor, and you have 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Thanks so much, and it's been great to listen to all the speakers today. Evident that there's never been a more urgent need to restore our damaged coastal ecosystems than now, and it's evident from all our city officials and diplomats speaking today that cities rely on coastal ecosystems to provide a high number of valuable benefits to humans, which include coastal protection and the maintenance of fisheries and tourism. And therefore, we need to carefully manage these essential global resources in order to create a sustainable future. And I think that's really important, and it's one of the focuses of priorities lately has been to guide our coastal cities in investing in mainstreaming and nature into plans to provide for the best defense against the impacts of climate change, which include flooding and coastal erosion and rising sea levels. And we need to work together to reduce the pressures of our coastal ecosystems and make them more resilient, and in doing so, successfully implementing SDG 14. Nature is an affordable and long-term solution and as we've seen on the African continent, this is a practical solution. And as growing coastal cities, we need to protect and restore, not replace our coastal ecosystems. The ways in which future urban growth and development is managed will greatly determine the extent to which these impacts negatively on our natural coastal ecosystems. So I think now is the time that we learn from one another to really see what works and what doesn't work, and apply this knowledge and practice to protect, manage, and restore these vulnerable ecosystems around the world. And subnational governments are the best place to understand and act upon the opportunities for systematic change. And it's therefore important that their voices and insights are heard on an international platform, such as the UN Ocean Conference, that focuses on the implementation of SDG 14, and we look forward to working with everyone in the lead up to this ocean conference.
Thank you so very much, Kate, for your remarks. Let me now invite Mr. Stuart Sarkozy-Banoxi. He's Director of Partnerships and Senior Advisor for North America of the Resilient Cities Network. Stuart, please, you have the floor. And you have 2 minutes.
Great, thanks very much. I'll try to get it all in 2 minutes. Fantastic to be joining you. Again, I'm with Resilient Cities Network, joining you today on behalf of the Chief Resilience Officers in cities around the globe. And the vast majority of those are based in the ocean or water-based. I also cannot leave our memberships and roles with the Ocean Sewage Alliance and the Center for Ocean Policy and Economics, among others, out of this picture as we consider the work towards SDG 14 and its targets. I'm really happy that one of our CROs from Miami, Shelby Busso, is joining us today, a good example of key city and ocean connectivity. But of course, Lagos, Lisbon, and Nairobi are also members of the network, and very pleased to see the other members, city representatives speak, and especially hear Ms. Fasawe's powerful words. I was also really struck by what Ms. Balsamau said from Cascais, and very interested in the investment forum. And this is the kind of interaction we need and why we're very interested to be here today. And speaking of interaction, as the leading global urban resilience network with our focus pillars of circularity and climate resilience, we have long felt, and I have personally long felt, that we have to bring the power of cities closer together with the urgent ocean work. And we have started acting on that in 2018 and 2019. There are people on this call, in fact, that helped with creating what is now the Urban Ocean Program. And we're partnered with the Ocean Conservancy and the Circulate Initiative on that. And we're looking to grow that and implement it in further countries and in further sectors and areas. And right now working on economy and plastics and circularity. But that's an example of the kind of power of the ocean and city together. And we're really wanting to tie that to our coming Resilient Community Impact Fund. So with that urban ocean lens, that brings me to the main message today. As we consider that cities are globally so often the oceanfront and the upriver source of many of the stresses being brought upon the ocean, and they can also be the first to feel the shocks. We also know that they're the places for solutions, for innovation, and for partnerships, and the change that we need. But we have to be very explicit in marrying these players together, creating the partners, funders, and innovators. And I just want to make this message super clear to everyone here that we're here to be part of the ocean literacy, blue economy, SDG 14 effort, and we're already in that effort. Get us at Resilient Cities Network and all of our members and all of our chief resilience officers involved directly, especially all of us that think with our urban and ocean sides of our brains and hearts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for this intervention. We have two other hands, but I just wanted to go through and invite participants to take a look at the chat box, because we have some events that have been mentioned there, including by the ambassador, the DPR from Kenya. Also, Ambassador Thompson has mentioned the date for the event, and one of the next speakers that I'll be inviting. Mr. Jose Sanchez, if you could take the floor, please, and perhaps you can also mention the event you just flagged on the chat. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for the invitation to participate, and thank you for the great interventions that have taken place so far. My name is Jose Sanchez. I work as director of the Agenda 2013 ABP, which is the International Association of Cities and Ports. And this is a brief comment on what was said. I completely agree with the key points that were said before about how the responsibility by Mrs. Balsamon, how the responsibility it is somehow spread among different ministries. And this is also something that we can see in the closer scale, where indeed there are other territorial actors besides local cities and local governments that also need to take these issues into consideration. Here we talk, for example, about ports and how port authorities are key elements in addressing these issues. They control considerable territories. They are responsible for large infrastructural investments and indeed play a key role. In fact, as Ambassador Mr. Thompson was saying on the decarbonization of transport, but they can also, and they must also take responsibility in other key issues, such as the preservation of protection of biodiversity or the increasing the resiliency on these territories. And this is something that we do see in our network by the intervention that our different partners are, different members are doing, and we will love to show them, of course, in Lisbon. But further on, talking about port cities is important also for the network nature. They are inevitably connected by global supply chains, and the actions that are taken in these settlements have a chain reaction that can accelerate the change that is necessary in the coming decade. We have to take into consideration that 50% of the population live within 100 kilometers, less than 100 kilometers of the coast. And in this area, port cities are very crucial hubs. But further on, just to conclude, because time is limited, I think it's also important because to take into consideration the port city relationship, also to encourage port directors and managers to take into consideration other indicators beside the economic result and the supply chain and logistic results to plan their their strategies for the infrastructure. And just to mention again regarding the recent forum that took place in Brest, where in our own session, the Ministry of Transport also presented a declaration already signed by 20 ports to support, encourage, and accelerate the decarbonization of transport, both by the electrification of ports, but also through green tariffs. So we will have this discussion further on from the 11th to the 13th of May in Tangier, in Morocco, in the World Conference Cities and Ports. So of course you're all invited, and it will be also a moment to give further impulse until the UN Ocean Conference in the end of June. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jose, for those remarks. We have time for a very short final remark, and I have Plataforma Oceano Clima. Would you still want to make some very short remarks, please? I don't see.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
okay.
Hear you.
So thank you for the invitation and to all organizers to really focus on this subject on cities. And 2 years ago, the Ocean and Climate Platform I am working for launched a project called Cities, focusing on the adaptation of coastal cities to sea level rise. So it will be a pleasure to be part of the organization of this event. Of course, the civil society is present, and we'll be happy to support you. And we were also in Brest for the One Ocean Summit 1 week ago, and we launched a declaration called the Cities Declaration, and I will be happy to share it in the chat. And more than 30 cities joined us. And so more than 30 mayors and governors for coastal city will be happy to call to the international community and to ask them to scale up adaptation and mitigation action and solutions to adapt coastal cities. So our job will be to bring around the tables all the more relevant actors and key players for this meeting. I think more than 30 cities are ready, and we all too will be happy to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And thanks very much to all participants and also for all those contributing to the chat box. I'm afraid we don't have time to invite more speakers at this stage. So let me invite Ms. Lotta Tahtinen back again so she can coordinate the final segment and invite our final speaker. Lotta, please.
Thank you so much to everyone for your absolutely insightful contributions. I really wish we had a little bit more time because the conversation is so interesting right now. I think this is the first of many more opportunities to come, including during the conference itself, where we really want to carve out a special session to hear more from local and regional governments together with the co-hosts. So now we've had a very rich discussion and it's our turn to hear from our last speaker today, who is a dear colleague with whom we have been collaborating on a number of occasions, Ms. Emilia Saiz, who is the Secretary General of the United Cities and Local Governments, UCLG, and who's also coordinating the work of the Global Task Force of Local and Regional Governments that brings together many of the networks that we have heard from today. So Emilia, I think you are the most befitting person to offer us some closing remarks. Over to you, Emilia, please.
Well, thank you very much, Lotta and colleagues. Quite a difficult task you are giving me because indeed the discussion has been very rich, and I am going to opt for not repeating what has been said and seeking what we should be doing next. Actually, how can we enhance these links between cities, the urban world, and oceans? I think it is the responsibility of local and regional governments, but also of their networks to enhance this idea, strengthen this idea that the oceans issue, SDG 14, is not only about coastal cities. And I think we might not have been doing that enough. And actually, when we look for political representatives to come to this kind of meetings, we usually find the challenge of finding someone that is not in a coastal city to talk about this very topic. Because in fact, it's not the coastal cities that are polluting our oceans, it's all of us. It's the way we live, the way we produce, the way we consume. That is what is putting our oceans in jeopardy. So that is one of the issues that we think as constituency needs to be a very important action point for us towards the future, but also to bring to the discussion of national governments in the upcoming conference. And I think Ambassador Thompson has been a great champion in making our constituency understand that. And he was a very strong voice as well during the process of the new urban agenda and linking all of these things. And probably this year, in the review year of the implementation of the new urban agenda, this is an issue that we need to strengthen because it is about multi-level governance. I have heard talking, our colleague Johanna from Cascais and several others are talking about how difficult it is to fall in between competencies, right? There is a new governance architecture that we will need, and SDG 14 talks about strengthening maritime law, but I think we need to go a little bit further and make this truly a territorial agenda, which is, I think, the message that the Catalonian government was also bringing to us. It's about the interurban system that we will need to address, the governance of the interurban system, to actually be able to make a significant shift in the way that we are dealing with our oceans, which are very linked also with our health and nutrition. And this is another issue that is not enough in the urban agenda, in the local and regional government leadership. Yes, it is about sustainable fishing, but it is about a change in the consumption of fishing. The other big issue that I wanted to bring to the table and that we are thinking about within the context of the Global Task Force is the link between SDG 14 and this agenda of the conference this year and the World Water Forum. Actually, the ocean issues are not enough in the World Water Forum. And I think it is up to us to bring it to that discussion. You know, the World Water Forum is taking place in Senegal this year. So I think we need to make additional efforts there. And thank you, Ambassador Thompson, for acknowledging that this might be a path to explore further. And finally, I would like to bring some thoughts on culture and food systems. The link between culture, how we understand and interpret the world, and how we take care of our oceans, also for future purposes, for instance, around these floating cities that we have been commenting, how different they need to be conceived and designed from the cities that we have been producing historically up until today. I think will be a very critical issue for our constituency. And then on food systems, the delivery chain, the production and consumption discussion, the use of our ports, and how those ports are functioning are indeed very critical. You know, port authorities are very powerful, meaningful entities that are usually not managed by cities. They are an entity in themselves, and the governance of these authorities is something, and the relation with the other spheres of government, I think, will be extremely important for the future. Also linked with the regionalization of metropolitan areas that I think will be important for the development of future of work, because the health of oceans is linked with our health, but also with the health of decent work opportunities in the future. So a very important agenda indeed. Allow me to end by saying that our organized constituency in the Global Task Force, and indeed Lotta, with so many of our members speaking today, our member organizations speaking today, is indeed able to provide accreditation to local and regional governments that are willing to participate. It doesn't matter whether you are a member of an organization or not. That doesn't matter. You just reach out to us, and we will make sure that local and regional government representatives are able to participate. So we're looking forward to opening up other spaces of conversation. We have our annual meeting of the Global Task Force next week in Barcelona. Some of you are going to be there with us, briefing on this and other topics, and we will make sure that local and regional governments networks around the world embrace this agenda. Thank you for the opportunity to listen firsthand to these interesting experiences, but also to listen to the ambassadors on their view of this important topic for all of us and for the future of our planet. As we work towards a new social contract, oceans needs to play a very important role in it. Thank you, Lotta. I hope this is what you expected from me, and if not, my fault entirely, and we'll correct next time. Thank you.
Emilia, thank you for always, as always, being so eloquent and summing up our conversations so beautifully. And now it's time for us to conclude this tremendously rich conversation that we have had. Again, we look forward to working with all of you. We have 4 months to go, about 4 months to go until the Ocean Conference takes place. We need to really now switch gears and make an extra effort to mobilize this absolutely critical community around the Ocean Conference. We look forward to working with all of you, your networks, to bring local governments to Lisbon, to have your voices heard, to hear from your experiences. And we look forward to working with all of you. So thank you. We will share the recording of today's session online and all the materials. And we wish you a wonderful rest of the day, wherever in the world you are. Thank you again for joining.